Please go ahead, sir. We are live now.
Namaskar. Good morning and welcome on another edition of our program in the series Illness to Wellness, brought to you by ASSOCHAM. I'm Shri from Total Care Control, doing welcome on our this program and want to start this program with this beautiful slogan, Yuktahara Viharasya, Yukta Chestasya Karvasu, Yukta Swapna Bodhasya, Yogo Bhavati Dukha. It means संतुलित एवं पोषण युक्त आहार से शरीर के सभी प्रकार के रोगों को दूर किया जा सकता है, चाहे वह शारीरिक हो या फिर मानसिक. So, keeping this in our mind, we have been organizing webinars on important concerning health and awareness since past 2 years. And they have been really popular in highlighting their major health issues, especially in light of the COVID pandemic. Today, we are brought another a very important topic, that is nutrition and balanced diet is key to success. To create awareness about nutrition, food and balanced diet and to promote healthy well-being of people, the balanced diet plays an important role in promoting the health and well-being of human life. Basically, it improves the quality of life. A healthy diet helps to protect against non-communicable diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer, and other medical conditions. And we are presenting this program under the National Nutrition Week. It's celebrated each year from 1st to 7th September. The aim of this event is to enhance the nutritional practice awareness among the community people at large to get optimum benefits from proper nutritious food to make a healthy nation. So, a big welcome to discuss. So, a big welcome to all of you once again today in this program. I would say we are very thankful and very lucky to have you all with us. Some prominent faces, well known, not in only national but also on international level, for huge work they have done in their fields of nutrition and health. We having with us also want to say thank you to Mr. Anil Rajput for organizing this program and want to invite him to say something about this program.
Good morning to everybody. It is my proud privilege to welcome a very eminent panel here. First of all, I like to welcome Ms. Ishi Khosla, Clinical Nutritionist, Center for Dietary Counseling, Ms. Sheila Krishnaswamy, Nutrition and Wellness Consultant and Founder, Nutrition Nectar, Dr. Rajesh Kesri, Founder and Director, Total Control, distinguished guests and friends who have joined us this morning for this very important event. Humankind is gradually recovering from the massive impact that the COVID pandemic has unleashed upon it over the last 1.5 years. In India, the second wave is largely under control, with the exception of few states like Kerala. And efforts are being made that the effect of the third wave, if at all, is kept at a minimum. This is critical as we were caught quite off guard in the month of April and May this year. We've all experienced that hardly any family was there which was not impacted during the second wave. We have all experienced how our infrastructure was wanting during this period. The only reason why many people survived because they had a much better immunity than people who were having comorbidity or lesser immunity. And the main reason that you can attribute for good immunity is to have good, healthy lifestyle and balanced diet. Till date, India has reported over 3.3 crore cases and over 4.4 lakh deaths, with greater normalcy being restored in the economic sphere. We have to collectively ensure that lockdowns are avoided at all costs. This can only be achieved by following COVID appropriate behavior along with continued and unabated focus on vaccination drive. The COVID pandemic has brought health and nutrition back to the center of our thought process. Today's topic of nutrition and balanced diet, key to success, is most topical in the times we are living in. It has been reported multiple sources that it is possible to prevent up to 80% of premature heart diseases and stroke diagnosis with lifestyle changes such as increasing physical activity and incorporating a balanced and nutritious diet. This is important as in India, the cases of heart diseases and diabetes are on the rise, with deaths due to heart attack up 53% over the last 5 years. For diabetes, India has more than 77 million adults living with it, and the number is expected to reach 134 million by 2045. A recent report by Thought Arbitrage Research Institute for ASSOCHAM titled Non-Communicable Diseases in India sums up the prevailing situation quite aptly. It states that NCD in India contributed to 6.3 million deaths in 2017, which was 15.3% of overall global deaths due to NCDs. It adds that the risk of having NCDs amongst our population is almost 4 times as people move from the age of 25 years towards the 50s. Every fourth person in the population aged about 50 years or above have a high risk of having NCD. It also observes that diabetes and hypertension show a higher prevalence in the age group of 50 and above. And as compared to the 1990s, when there was a 40% chance of people dying with NCDs, the risk of death increased more than 1.5 times by 2017. It concludes that sedentary life, stressful work, and unhealthy diet are largely responsible for NCDs. In the working age group, this makes it amply clear that we need to address these perilous issues before they become an even greater health hazard. And one of the effective ways is through a nutritious and balanced diet. Interestingly, many doctors say that once a person is impacted by a disease, then they take all precautions and follow their advice to the T. They are clearly puzzled by the fact as to why people implement these lifestyle and dietary changes before they are afflicted by the disease. If you ask me, it is simply a matter of discipline and responsibility. The responsibility towards self, the family, and eventually towards the society. Let's look at what it entails. It includes eating more of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, choosing low or fat-free dairy products, limiting saturated and trans fats, sodium and sugar intake, and increasing the consumption of magnesium, potassium, and calcium in our diets. The key to moderation, even when we want to binge, eat a little bit of everything, and largely one would remain all right. It is this simple, and shockingly, many of us are unable to incorporate this in our daily lives and land ourselves in all sorts of trouble. Over the past 19 odd months since the pandemic began, the role of nutrition and balanced diet has again been revisited. The fact, however, is it should always be there whether there is pandemic or not. It is well known that a healthy body, the mind ward off many infections and are able to launch a formidable defense even if it falls into a disease. Here I must mention that the mind and body cannot act in silos. They are one unit, and a good all-rounded diet does wonders for both. It is a well-known maxim that a healthy mind leads to a healthy body and vice versa. The critical role of balanced diet and nutrition diet in this is second to none. It is time we all became more aware and more resolute and more responsible. After all, more healthy individuals means a healthier and more productive nation. It is quite obvious that if people are healthy, they will deliver superior value for the nation and positively impact its output. It is with this intent that we also see the government enhancing its focus on fortification of essential items. The Honorable Prime Minister has pledged fortification of rice to be completed by 2025. Wheat, milk, biscuits, and many more products are already being fortified by leading companies. This underscores the commitment of the government and corporates towards a balanced and nutritious diet. We could frankly not ask for a better set of experts to address today's topic. I look forward to hearing their views, opinions, and suggestions on the subject. I wish this webinar my very best. Thank you, and Jai Hind. Over to you. Back to the panelists, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving this platform to us. Mr. Anil Rajput is the chairman of ASSOCHAM CSR Council and National Council of Advertising, Marketing, Brand Promotion and Protection. Mr. Rajput serves as a member of Corporate Management Committee ITC Limited from 2020 and Head of Corporate Affairs at ITC Limited from 2007. I also want to introduce to all of you to my great panelist as Dr. Kesri, senior physician and a renowned diabetologist, also founder of Total Care Control.
Unmute yourself.
And thank you for giving us your precious time for us. Dietitian Sheila Krishna Swami is a registered dietitian with 38 years of professional experience in the clinical, corporate, and communication spaces. She is actively involved in a national and international dietetic association and has held position in both. She has had a media presence from the last 25 years, formerly a nutrition entrepreneur and editor, a public speaker, and a blogger. Currently, she is nutrition and wellness consultant and work independently as an advisor, a writer, an anchor, a corporate trainer, and a counselor. She has a YouTube channel called Nutrition Nectar, where she hosts the program on food and nutrition and awareness about health.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is dietitian E.C. Khoshla. Sorry. Yes, E.C. Khoshla is a practicing clinical nutritionist, columnist, author, and entrepreneur and researcher. She is actively involved in clinical practices at the Center for Dietary Counseling in Delhi, where she deals with a wide range of nutrition-related health problems, including obesity, diabetes, CV diseases, digestive disorder, food allergies, etc. As a part of commitment towards public health and community nutrition, Mrs. Khosla founded the Celiac Society of India, the first of its kind of India, to spread awareness about gluten-related disorder in India and internationally. Recently, she has been facilitated by the President of India for her work in the field of nutrition. She has also been listed among the 25 most powerful women in the country by the India Today's group. So welcome, ma'am. Welcome to all of you for giving us time and your knowledge. So, Dr. Kesri, just I'm coming up to you. So, what's your think about how can relate the terms of nutrition and health?
Yes, this is a very important question, and our Honorable Chairperson Shri Anil Rajput ji has shed a lot of light on this fact that you see what we are made up of is what we eat. We are actually what we eat. So for our growth, for development, for maintaining all the systems of our body, we need nutrients, which we get through the food that we eat, through the nutrition that we get. So health is being away from disease, is being free from disease. Disease is a result, especially the non-communicable diseases which have come in vogue, like diabetes, like coronary artery disease, like hypertension, a lot due to the nutritional practices, due to the lifestyle changes that have taken place maybe over past few decades, or maybe maybe hundreds of years since our lifestyle has changed. We being from hunter-gatherers to getting civilized, to getting settled down, and then consequently the industrialization process has taken place, and the food that we eat, the food which is grown, the agricultural, the dairy farming, all these things have changed. And our dietary practices have also changed. This is leading to lots of diseases, and this is where the role of a balanced nutrition comes in. We divide the food that we eat into the major categories like carbohydrates, proteins, fats. These are the macronutrients. But equally important are the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals. You see, our body is constantly, our body is a dynamic entity. It is working, the muscles are working, the brain cells are working, the blood is flowing, the heart is beating. So there are changes taking place in the body, and to regulate these changes, we require lots of nutrients, not only to build the body, not only to maintain the body, but also to keep the body in equilibrium. So what we need through our diet is a balanced nutrition. There is nothing as such good, there is nothing as such bad. Like we frequently hear that cholesterol is very bad, we should not have cholesterol. Cholesterol is very important part of the body. It forms a very important part of the cell membrane. So it is protective. We require it. So we should have it in our diet, but in adequate quantities. It is actually excess of cholesterol which is bad. Salt is also very important. Sugar is also very important for us. But the problem happens when we have it in excess, not that it itself is bad. So what is important is to have a well-balanced, nutritious diet. I'll just give you a very small example. If you look up any reports, you see that albumin, which is a protein, is measured in grams per deciliter, whereas vitamins are measured in nanograms or picograms, which would be millionth of a gram. So there are some things which should be there in larger quantities. There's something which should be there in very, very minute quantities, but they should be there. Disease happens because of this imbalance of nutrition that we are having. So I think this is a very good initiative by ASSOCHAM in organizing this this webinar. I'm very thankful to them for organizing this webinar and inviting me. And we are touching upon a very important topic, especially in today's time when a balanced nutritious diet can prevent lots of diseases, especially the non-communicable diseases on which ASSOCHAM has laid so much of focus, especially with the report that which they have brought out. So I'm very thankful once again.
Well explained, sir. Well explained. Now, Sheila ma'am, I'm coming up to you. Ma'am, as we are celebrating Nutrition Week, so can you shed some light on this year Nutrition Week theme, which is feeding is smart right from the start?
Yeah, thank you, Srilata, for the question. Before I answer the question, I would like to thank the organizers of ASSOCHAM, particularly Mr. Anil Rajput, Mr. Chandar Taneja, Mr. Sandeep Jain, and all the others who have given me this opportunity to share some thoughts on nutrition and balanced diet. And ASSOCHAM, I think, has this is a very good way to disseminate information to the general public. And ASSOCHAM has organized a very nice panel discussion. And thank you very much for inviting me today. Now, to answer your question about this year's National Nutrition Week theme, which is feeding smart right from the start. We all know that nutrition is very important right from prenatal stage. In fact, a lot of emphasis has been given on the first 1,000 days, which form the foundation of good health through nourishment of the mother and the infant. Right from when a mother becomes pregnant, nourishment becomes of vital importance, because not only is the mother should be healthy, but also the growing infant should be healthy. After the child is born, exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months and followed by healthy home-cooked weaning foods will definitely build nourishment for the infant. And the first 1,000 days is important because the nourishment which is given during the first 1,000 days will actually go on to make a healthy child and the child will become a healthy adult. And a lot of diseases can be prevented through good nourishment during the first 1,000 days. In fact, there are studies to show that whatever the nutrition that a mother gets when the fetus is in the mother's womb is actually can determine whether the child will become a diabetic or not. So there are what is called the fetal origins of adult disease. There are studies to show that what is important, the nutrition is very important right from pregnancy stage till the child becomes 2 years of age. And thereafter also nutrition is important, but feeding smart right from the start is, I think this is what it refers to.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So deep meaning. Hope everybody now understand that what's it have like feeding is smart right from the start. Okay. Now, Ishi ma'am, I'm coming up to you. Can you tell us that why is nutrition important today, and what is the benefits of healthy eating pattern? That everybody knows we should eat healthy, but what should be healthy eating pattern?
Ishi, I think you need to unmute yourself.
I am unmuted. Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank ASSOCHAM, Mr. Anil Chandrasekhar, for inviting me today. The topic, needless to say, it deserves much more focus today than ever before with the pandemic. It is always important. So your question that why is nutrition important today is actually nutrition has always been important, but somewhere because of several changes in our environment and in our lifestyles, the food also changed dramatically, and the focus on food became only almost like an entertainment and pleasure rather than an art of eating to nourish and to stay healthy. So we made some very, very profound changes in our food, in our agricultural practices, processing and industrial production of food has made dramatic changes in our diets. And along with that, the environmental changes that have happened, the lifestyle changes that have happened around us have also contributed to nutrition-related problems. And today we have called them lifestyle-related diseases or non-communicable diseases. And there has been an acceleration since the 1960s. Post the Green Revolution, 20 years after that, we have seen epidemics of right from heart disease, obesity, diabetes, etc. And things are only getting worse. Even though we have much more focus on healthcare, better medical care, and to the extent that according to some public health experts, their projection is that children in this generation, our generation, are going to have shorter lifespans compared to their parents, which clearly tells us that something is really going wrong, because this has never happened in the evolution of mankind in any generation. So therefore, the conversations on nutrition become even more important. And with the pandemic, we've had several major, very sad, impacts on our health, on our body, mind, economically. All of that can put together. The infection itself, the stress, what we suffered with lockdown, and the passive lives that we were leading, and the burden of the medication, which we call long COVID nutrition issues, and then the vaccination. All of these have put a huge burden, much more than what was there even earlier. So I think it's just compounded and made it far more complex for us, and we are witnessing it in my practice. I am finding it much more hard to deal with common problems which we could deal with very easily earlier. For example, obesity, for example, diabetes, and very well controlled patients who were doing very well on their diets with their numbers being perfect. With these stressors and COVID infection and the vaccinations, they have really gone out of control. And we understand why this is happening, and we need to make correctives. So the narrative is absolutely clear that we have to look at nutrition and food far more than before, and the fact that how do we eat, how do we bring in good nutrition. And so I think what mistakes we have made in the past, because I refuse to believe that we are less aware today. We are far more aware than our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, and great grandparents were not as educated in a certain way. I'm not going to say use the word aware. They were far less aware of the nutrients, calories, proteins, antioxidants, fiber. They didn't know any of that. The science was not known to them, but their practices were far more strong and sound. So, but today we are far more intelligent, yet we are seemingly not making that cut and not making that difference. Rather, it's going the other way around. So more information is creating more problems. So I think as practitioners of nutrition science, I have to accept that we have made certain blunders by breaking down food into nutrients and making the public, trying to make the public aware with those nutrient values. It's not possible to make things oversimplified. So hey, you don't need to eat more protein, or somebody is saying I need to eat more calcium, somebody is trying to eat more a keto diet because of the benefit on so and so problems. Now it is too complex for an individual to fathom and understand the context of these things. So if somebody feels they're not making enough protein, they start overdoing protein. If somebody is trying to eat more calcium, they're starting to have too many calcium supplements. We've done this to zinc during the pandemic. Too many oversimplified facts given to the public becomes a little dangerous tool. So I feel the first thing is not to break up food into nutrients for patients and for people at large, and give them actionable points. What they eat food. We all, even Sheila and myself, we may be aware of nutrients, but we don't eat nutrients. When we are sitting on the table, we're eating food, right? And it's nice to know about them, but we don't eat according to the labels, even though they are mentioned. And don't get me wrong, in nutrition information is important, but we cannot use that as a tool guide to direct us to the right nutrition practices. So we need to talk in terms of real food. And when I say real food, means food groups. We divide food into groups, which is cereals. We divide food into pulses, which are proteins, and fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. And, so these are very simple to understand. Everybody connects that dal is a protein, egg and fish and chicken are proteins. We can use that word to the layman as well. And the cereals and grains are carbs. Everybody understands that. So maybe we can just limit it to that and tell them that this is how you have to divide. Say for instance, a half plate rule. Very nice. That it tells you half your plate should be full of fruits and vegetables, and divide the others, that's your proteins and fats and grains, in the balance. That is the communication which needs to go out. How many times a day should one eat? What time should one eat? We don't need to do the maths all the time, because mathematics is not going to work here. So I think to answer your question, I think you were expecting a different answer, but I wanted to really bring this to the table, that we need to talk in terms of food make people understand real food and what are the actions they can do, what are the practices they can do. So what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, when not to eat, and focus on digestion. Because you're today, we heard the panelists just before me say, you are what you eat and you are also what you digest. And that science is emerging today. Rather, I would say we are just rewinding the clock. We all knew it, as our ancestors said. The father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, said all diseases begin in the gut, right? So, which means it was something to do with your digestive system. So there is a huge connection between what you eat and how you are digesting it and your health. So also tune in, listen to your body, listen to your gut feeling. So all of these things need to be understood and practiced, and that's how you will lead your body to good food, good diet. And lastly, all food is not nutrients. It's also non-nutrients. A lot of things we don't talk about. The phenolic compounds, the phytonutrients, the water, the fibers, these are not nutrients, but they are also equally important. The probiotics, the prebiotics. So we should not get overly concerned about nutrients and nutrition. We, as for the public, need to talk in terms of real food.
Thank you, ma'am. You have given us exact idea about how should
If I can,
be our plate.
if I can add something to it, because since we are already getting down to earth, I think that was a wonderful discussion and description by you, Rishikesh. Thank you so much. I think, as you said rightly in the end of your discussion, that digestion is very important, and we are not feeding just ourselves. I think what modern medicine is now starting to pick up is that it is very important to feed the bacteria, the trillions and trillions of bacteria which are living in our blood. So it is important to have food which gets appropriately digested, help of the huge microbiota which is present in our intestine, and it is very important to maintain that microbiota also. Because due to the current nutrition status and the overuse of antibiotics, because people are taking antibiotics off the shelf for all petty diseases, I think a lot of our microbiota has changed. And in many discussions that we've had over a period of past 2 years, many of the renowned specialists in the non-communicable disease spheres have put out this fact that a lot of diseases like diabetes and heart diseases could also be related to the dysfunctional microflora that we are having in our gut. What would you say to that? Please unmute yourself. I think you're muted. Ishiji.
India. Okay. No, I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Rajesh. It is just, it is unfortunate that we went through these last 50 years ignoring the gut, and we treated diseases in isolation and not, like for instance, when we talk about COVID and the upper respiratory tract and the lung infections, I think the war begins first in the gut, which is
Right.
where everything is, it's a control panel. It's where everything is being controlled, even though the war site is the lung. And it's very difficult to explain to a patient to have poor probiotics or to look at gut health when he has COVID, because they feel, oh, the problem is here. Oh, my problem is in the mind. I have depression. How can, my food make a difference? What has that got to do with food? How is an autistic child going to give benefit from the food? It is a neurodevelopmental problem. It's a nervous system. Not realizing that the nervous system, 80% of the neurotransmitters are in the gut, secreted by this microbiome, secreted and master control. They hold the key. And it's so beautiful that this symbiotic relationship that we have with the microbiome, with the good bacteria, is there for a purpose. They will turn on genes, they will turn off genes. They will decide what food is absorbed, what nutrients are being absorbed, what are not being absorbed. Malabsorption is becoming a huge issue thanks to the dysbiosis, which is an unfriendly gut flora leading to a leaky gut. So right from absorption of food to disease states, it is all master controlled by these bacteria. And the bacteria like to be pampered. The bacteria like to be treated well. And when you don't do that, they go against you. And when they go against you, this doesn't remain a pleasant orchestra. It becomes noisy, chaotic, and we face the music.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
If I can ask you, sorry for this. What would be your, just as you said, we should give some actionable advice to our listeners. What could be the actionable advice to our listeners? Now, majority of them are already adults and they've already gone through these phases of life. So what sort of probiotics, let's say, is it the dahi that we eat every day good enough, or something special is required to restore that microbiota? If both of you could contribute, I think that would be great. Ishiji, please unmute yourself.
Somebody mutes it from the back end.
Okay.
So yeah. So the question is very, very valid. So because we keep talking about probiotics, so the straight away the association for an average person is dahi. And it goes way beyond that. We have to understand why the gut flora is disturbed. What are the things, like you said rightly, antibiotics, whether it is any chemical, whether it's a painkiller, whether it's a NSAID, or whether it's any kind of chemical through food. It could be the preservatives, the emulsifiers, the flavor enhancers, the things that you don't even understand on the back of the pack. Those are chemicals. The pesticides that we get through food, and the chemicals through the environment, the water and the air, and stress, of course. And not to mention now food sensitivities. Thanks to this dysbiosis, as mentioned, we get a leaky gut, and that allows the passage of undigested food across the gut barrier. And we are seeing a host of issues regarding, this whole area of wheat sensitivity, gluten sensitivity, dairy. Why are people talking so much about it and getting better when we remove these things? Is because they are also disturbing the gut flora. So we have to look at food sensitivities as an issue. And of course, so basically what are the foods for the flora and what disturbs the flora, both are important.
Right.
So prebiotics are food for the gut flora. The fiber-rich food, the resistant starches, which are really what we all stand for. We know those are healthy. And the probiotics in the form of when you are taking medication, for instance, or you have a established chronic disease that is what you're treating, then you actually need the pills, because they give you the definition of a probiotic actually is a certain strength of the organisms reaching the colon, the gut in a viable form, so that they can colonize. So that means they have to go past the juices, digestive juices and all of that, to remain alive and then colonize. So that is really, there's a certain strength which needs to be there. So curd actually does not comply, therefore, and is not. So it is in a category what we call a postbiotic. A postbiotic is what has the metabolites after the probiotics have done their job. So for instance, curd, the lactic acid postbiotic. So therefore, fermented foods are also help in the creation of a pH in the body, in the gut, for growth of these friendly organisms. And otherwise, probiotic foods would mean all of what we are getting through pills, through certain drinks, we have these the Yakult and the likes of Yakult, and of course, prebiotics and postbiotics, fermented foods. So let's not make it complicated for the audience. Postbiotics is a very technical word. So let's say fermented foods, which include the pickles, which include kanji, which include, so many sauerkraut and kimchi and all of that, which we are pretty used to having. And in India, pickling is not something foreign to us. And therefore, we again rewind the clock into understanding why our ancestors were doing certain things. Even idli dosa, the fermented foods that we eat, there has to be a reason behind it. So, and of course, this is a question which can take up the whole webinar. So I won't be able to continue in giving you all the aspects, but certainly eliminate the causes which are disturbing the gut flora, eliminate or reduce, use medication judiciously. Prolonged medication must be accompanied with probiotic supplementation. And with COVID prescriptions, many doctors this time I noticed were giving probiotics. And so I think that would really, I'm going to leave it at that. And I have a simple way of presenting this: gut, girth, grains, and glucose, which means sugar. So gut, focus on the gut, focus on your girth, which is your abdominal fat, which is also highly inflammatory and can contribute to problems. And girth, grains, the choice of grains that you have and the amounts that you have, and sugars. And sugars also directly affect the gut. Too much of sugar can cause dysbiosis. And the two aspects of good nutrition today, or good food, should be really working on an anti-inflammatory diet, because inflammation is something which disturbs the gut, and insulin, the two I's. So the 4 G's and the 2 I's. Why I say insulin metabolism? Because insulin resistance leads to too much insulin, and that can also be inflammatory. So if we are able to focus our diets on this, and rather than talking only nutrients, of course, there is the importance of nutrients, I think we should be able to handle many of our problems which are going out of hand.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all about the gut health. Now I coming to you, Dr. Kesri. When we are spending lots of time with gadgets like laptop, mobile, TV, games, then what should be our lifestyle to stay healthy? Yeah, you can see.
You see, that is very true. A lot of things have changed in past so many years, and especially past 2 years, when most of the people are working from home. And there's been very little activity. People, even those who used to go to their parks for walks daily, have not been able to do so. But anyway, what I would advise all the listeners is that you have to incorporate physical activity in your life. That is very important. Just as the previous speaker was talking about insulin resistance, physical activity is one of the most important things which increases the insulin sensitivity and decreases the insulin resistance. And insulin resistance today, by far, is a major cause of most of these diseases that we've just discussed in the beginning, especially diabetes, and not even diabetes, other diseases related to diabetes, such as heart disease, coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis. Now, what happens in insulin resistance, you have to understand, is that insulin is being made by the body, but it is not being recognized by the cells. Insulin is instrumental in mobilizing, in moving the sugar which has already been digested by the gut and which is circulating in the blood, from the blood to inside the cells where it is being utilized. That is one of the important and major functions of insulin. But together with that, the insulin is doing many other things also. And the insulin is moving the fats from the blood to the fat depots. So when it is in excess, what happens is that insulin is moving a lot of fat into the fat cells. There is an excess of fat deposition because there is an excess insulin in the body, but the glucose levels are still high, they are not controlled. So this is the beginning of atherosclerosis, the deposition of fat plaques in the arteries, which may get unstabilized, which may block the passage of blood to heart itself or to a portion of the brain and cause either heart attack or stroke. So this is where it starts. So physical activity sensitizes the body to insulin, decreases the levels of insulin, and obviously physical activity has many other important benefits than just lowering the glucose. First of all, physical activity would utilize the glucose itself. The glucose levels would remain normalized, and this is especially very important for diabetics. The other thing is when your muscles function, when they're contracting and when they're dilating, what they do, a lot of chemicals are released. There are chemicals which are released in the brain and which act as antidepressants. So you might see that people who go to gym, who do a lot of exercise or do jogging, after running a few kilometers, they feel happy. So this sense of happiness comes from exercise. It is an antidepressant in itself. There are a lot of other things. The cholesterol levels may decrease and the HDL levels increase in the body. HDL is so-called good cholesterol, which protects against the deposition of plaques and formation of atherosclerotic plaques. So there are so many benefits of exercise. Exercise, when people are exercising, more blood flow is there to the muscles, the blood vessels dilate. As a result, after the exercise, the blood pressure may usually decrease. So at the time of the exercise, there might be a rise in blood pressure, but actually, as a result of the exercise, there's decrease in blood pressure also. So all the major non-communicable diseases, which are the cause of mortality, now they are to some extent addressed by this enhanced or increased physical activity. Now, physical activity is not just exercise. Even women who are doing the household work at home, that is also physical activity. Even if you are going up the stairs or climbing down the stairs, that is also physical activity. You can go down to your market and take your groceries and bring back the bag home. That is also physical activity. So I would suggest that wherever there is a possibility, try to incorporate more physical activity. Try to walk if it is possible to walk. Try to carry your bag if it is possible to carry it. So the more physically active you are, the lesser chances of getting complications of diseases, the better it would be possible to control the diseases if you already have them, like diabetes or blood pressure and even heart disease. And it is basically good for all, and it is a mood enhancer. And I would like to say that not everyone during the pandemic has been affected. Many people have started doing exercises at home, in the drawing rooms. Many people have bought cycles, and it has actually been very beneficial. I have so many patients who have actually gone off all the diabetic medications during this pandemic, during the lockdown periods. So I think if we want, as our chairperson mentioned in the very beginning of the program, if we want, we can definitely change our habits, but we have to realize the importance of bringing about this change. Once we realize, we can all quite easily do it.
Yeah, Dr. Keshri, I think now it is clear for viewers that what they should be do. Now it's a related question, the pandemic. I want to ask Ms. Sheila ma'am that in this pandemic, when we see children are not going to school, not going to play outside, and also they are fuzzy eater, prefer high in fat, sugar, salt foods like junk, aerated sugary drinks. How do we make them eat healthy to maintain their nutritional status? What do you want to say?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Srilata. I think first we need to see what the parents are concerned about. Usually the parents are concerned about their children's height, their children's weight, about they always believe that for some reason the children don't eat enough, and they're also very active. So, you know, the intake is not matching the output and all of those. And normally the parents' solutions to all these, you know, their children's food intake is either force feeding the children or using food as a bribe, like, you know, telling the child to finish the homework and then he or she would get a bowl of ice cream, or maybe a cake or a pastry or something like that. So that using food as a bribe and frequently feeding the child over and over again, even though the child is not hungry. So these are the solutions that parents seem to find very easy to make their children eat. And they're probably busy in their own work, so they don't have time to really give it a second thought about what their children are eating or what they're being fed. So I think the first step would be to create awareness amongst the parents what needs to be done for their children to eat better and choose foods better. And I think a few steps would be like discuss about good health while serving food to the child. Talk about as Ishi said, we don't need to talk about nutrients, and in fact we are no longer talking about nutrients too much. We don't discuss calories and proteins and vitamins and minerals, but we say when we serve and food to the child, just try and explain where it's come from, how it's made, and how it benefits the body in a simple language that a child can understand. I think that was definitely one way of doing it. And saying no to second helpings of these, as you said, Srilata, high in fat, sugar, salt foods, HFSS foods as they are commonly called. We can't really stop children from eating all of this because they can be used as treats sometimes. But saying no to a second portion or a second helping, I think does reduce the intake of such HFSS foods. And providing healthy options, like let's say giving maybe a small a cupful or a half a cupful of nuts and seeds as a snack instead of giving something else, or creating access to these kind of healthy snacking. It could be cucumber or carrot sticks, or colored pepper sticks with a dip, or it could be nuts and seeds. It could be fruits cut in different shapes and making them very attractive for the child to reach out to a fruit and eat it. So creating an environment which actually promotes healthy eating also, I think, is very important. So if our refrigerator is going to be stacked with unhealthy snacks and carbonated beverages, the child is bound to ask for it or probably help himself or herself to all these kind of foods. So I think it's important for the parents to create an environment which has healthy eating, healthy foods and healthy beverages. And that also will help to some extent, to reduce these kind of HFSS foods. And of course, not to use food as bribe. I think there are so many other activities or other temptations that can be given to a child for, instead of using food as a bribe. And not to forget, the parents themselves need to be role models for children. If we can't expect a child to eat healthily when a parent is helping himself or herself to a high-fat, sugary or salty snack. So, and it's not fair expecting that. So I think the parents themselves need to be role models for their children to eat healthy and choose healthier foods. And parents that have come to me, I've always told them, let your child decide the quantity of food and you can decide the quality of food that a child should eat. Because it's in the children don't cook in most Indian homes. So the parents are the ones, or there's somebody else to cook the food. The parents can decide the quality of food that goes into a child's gut. But the child, I think, should decide the quantity, because we tend to, push food into the child when he or she is not hungry. And that can create aversion to food, and probably, when a child sees something that is that he or she likes or that is very tempting, can start to eat that. So I think we need to create a very very beautiful friendship between the child and healthy foods. And I think there are multiple ways of doing it, and I've just named a few of them.
Well said, ma'am. Exactly. I'm coming to you, Ishi ma'am. Can you define good food and bad food as as a dietitian, everybody comes to a dietitian, always asks, "Ma'am, मैं क्या खा सकता हूँ, क्या नहीं खा सकता हूँ?" So, please shed some light.
Yeah. So, food by definition is something which you eat to nourish your body. So it has to be good for you by definition. So a food which is not good doesn't come under the realm of food. So that is really what we call junk. So, it's very clear that what is good food is basically what is food. But what is junk by definition. So something which is going to harm your body, something is which is going to be toxic for the body, doesn't come under the realm of food. So I don't think there is a debate of that. So it's either junk food or food. And therefore, I always say treat your body like a temple. So put in foods only which you would in a in a sacred place. Treat it like a sacred space. So treat it well, and that is really the essence of eating right, and it will keep you from damaging your body with the wrong food. Having said that, we have in our environment today many foods which don't therefore qualify as foods, and they are there in our environment, be it toxic fats, the bakery products with margarines and trans fats, too much of high fructose corn syrup, the sugary drinks, the over fried namkeens and deep fried snacks, you name it, when all the refined flour maida based foods which we all have in our environment, which really are not the best for us. And I think every average person also on the street आप सब कुछ खा सकते हो जो आपकी बॉडी के लिए ठीक है. And follow the 3 common sense principles of eating, which are moderation, balance, and variety. So variety is a very simple principle, which really means you eat different food groups, like we spoke about earlier. You eat different food groups, and within each food group also have different compositions of say grains. You don't have wheat and only wheat. You can have rice, you can have millets, you can have several other traditional grains. If it's dals, have a variety of dals, have variety of colorful vegetables and fruits, have a variety of nuts, have a variety of oils. That is the way to nourish your body, and the chances that you get or your body gets all the nutrients is assured. And the principle of moderation is eat everything, but in the right portions. Unless you have now developed a food sensitivity. So for instance, today I deal with a lot of patients who have wheat sensitivity. And because of wheat sensitivity, we also need to take away certain other grains which cross-react. So that's like corn and soya, etc. So if you are sensitive, then there is zero tolerance and no room for those. If you have a celiac disease, or if you have a non-celiac wheat sensitivity, then of course there is no room for moderation. But otherwise, small portions of everything is a good idea. And if you can't do a small portion of, say, a dessert, by the very nature of certain foods like sugars, like Sheila just said, a second helping should be avoided, but it is very compelling to have the second helping, because these are designed to be, some of the foods that we are eating are high sugar and high on certain chemicals which are designed to be addictive. So you can't stop at that one one chip or a few chips. You need to finish that whole pack, because it has those addictive components. Likewise, sugar has that addictive component, and you really can't have one bite of a dessert. You really, mostly if you start having it, you overeat. So then what do you do? So that doesn't mean you've sinned and you have everything is all over. Then you have the opportunity to balance it. Balance means you undereat the next meal, undereat the next day, go on a fast, or exercise a little more. So this is a common sense way of dealing with it. It's not about kya kha sakta hu ya kya nahi kha sakta. It's about intelligently eating. So they say Eating is a necessity and eating intelligently is an art. And that's a combination we need to make.
If I can ask a question here, because I think many people would be interested in knowing this, especially I know my patients are always asking me this question. I think we have people who specialize in this, and I wish to know your opinion. What are the healthy fats, the cooking medium? Because this is a question which everyone asks. What are the best cooking medium? Now, I won't like to talk here about the olive oil and canola oil because majority of our patients cannot afford that. So, of all the oils that we have, what combination or what is your suggestion to your visitors and your patients for a
That's
healthy diet?
Yeah, that's a great question because we are bringing in fats in the limelight, and it's high time we brought them out as protective foods. They are always kept as low fat diet, in that category. It is unfortunate that we in the last 50 years have done that, and in the bargain increased our sugars and carbs, which has worsened our insulin resistance. So fats are actually going to help you deal with insulin resistance. So a good good fats are good for you in a simple way. So increase your intake of good fats. And how do you define a good fat? A fat which will give you a good percentage of monounsaturated fats and omega-3 fats, and N3 and N6 ratio should be good. So traditionally in India, we are blessed to have traditionally, made fats which were a part of all our kitchens, and they were driven away in favor of the refined oils, which are pro-inflammatory and unhealthy and high in polyunsaturated fats, which are not desirable. So, this is all jargon. So let's come to specifics. A good combination in my suggestion would be mustard oil, which has a very high intake or concentration of N3 fats. N3 fats are the anti-inflammatory fats. So the good fats which can actually protect you from diseases. All the diseases and building of your immunity can happen with these good percentage of fats in our diet. And they are also called the fish fats. Now, everybody cannot get fish and eat fish if they are vegetarians. So mustard oil is a great option for these kind of, for improving the N3 fats. And also it is very rich in monounsaturated fat, which does well for the cardiovascular system. And then you have sesame oil, til ka tel, again, cold pressed. It's not only about which oil, it's also how it is extracted. So high heat refining oils is counterproductive, and it damages many, many good aspects of the fat and adds certain undesirable elements. So it's really not a choice of normally for normal cooking practices. If you want to eat out and sometimes you get it in your diet, it's fine. But so sesame oil, cold pressed mustard oil, desi ghee also is very valuable. It has been pushed aside being a saturated fat. Again, very I would say undesirable and sad situation which came, and we just drove away such a valuable fat. It is extremely good for our gut, and butyric acid and butter. That means even butter is actually good for us. And so, but again, go back to the principle of variety. No oil is perfect, no fat is perfect. Use different oils. So to get the benefit of omega-3, use mustard. To get the benefit of the antioxidants and the omega-3 also in sesame and the desi ghee, you get many other benefits, like I said, butyric acid and monounsaturated fat and beta carotene. So a variety would be a good idea. And of course, olive oil is not local, so it's not something which I will recommend to public at large. But if you can afford it, it's a fabulous oil for more than one reasons, because it is a fruit oil. It's an oil not from a seed, not from a nut, but from a fruit, which has got very high concentrations of phenolic compounds. So it is a fabulous oil. If you can put it in some foods, use it sparingly. It's a good oil. And coconut oil also has its place as a very gut-friendly oil. Again, being a saturated fat, it was demonized and driven out. Coconut as a fat was driven out, and coconut as a food was also taken with a lot of guilt Again, an unfortunate phenomena which happened. But actually, if you want to clean your gut, and it has what we call certain kind of fatty acids called caprylic acid and lauric acid, which are antiviral. So they have immune boosting properties and gut cleansing properties. So coconut oil also must come back in its rightful place. So I think, and if you really want to fry your food, I would say use rice bran oil. It's a monounsaturated fat, not high heat refined, so relatively better among the refined oils. So it's more stable for frying, but frying, of course, we will discourage as a choice of cooking practice, but sometimes it's fine if you do it at home. So I think that gives you a fair idea of cooking oils.
I would like to add one more oil to the list of what Ishi has already said, groundnut oil. I come from Bangalore, and in South, in Karnataka, we use a lot of groundnut oil, especially in interior Karnataka. And traditionally, we've always used groundnut oil for cooking. So I think
Sheila,
that also can be added to the list.
Would you use groundnut oil, which is cold pressed? I'm sure you wouldn't refine it.
Absolutely. Cold
Yeah,
pressed,
so
double filtered, sorry. Double filtered or cold pressed.
Which is the one which is refined from the shelf. So I think cold pressed groundnut oil would be what you are referring to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can we give such a recommendation to our listeners that they need to alternate, maybe once in a day they use mustard oil, and at other times the other easily available ones like safflower or sunflower oil, because we need to have this proper ratio of omega-3 and omega-6, and I don't think one oil in itself, either mustard or even sesame, meets all the requirements. So probably isn't it good if they alternate these oils during the cooking in the days of week or during the day? Do you give such recommendations also?
Yes, we do. Sunflower again is a highly polyunsaturated fat, and it's also high heat refined. Cold pressed sunflower is not really something which I have seen on the shelves. But to get the benefits of the PUFA, the polyunsaturated fats in sunflower,
Yes.
seeds can be snacked on. And we in general in India need more monounsaturated fats than polyunsaturated fats. So monounsaturated fatty acids in rich oils include mustard oil, like Sheila said, groundnut oil, sesame oil, and even desi ghee. So these are richer in monounsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats, we do have an excess, and therefore we need to tilt. In India, our N3, N6 ratios are very, very tilted and skewed. So I would favor omega-3 rich oils, sesame oil, mustard oil, very, very strongly. And in India ये होता था, it was पहले कुछ सब्जियां घी में बनती थी, कुछ चीजें हरी सब्जियां, करेले, कुछ मस्टर्ड ऑयल में बनता था. Southern India में coconut oil यूज करते थे, घी यूज करते थे, तिल का तेल यूज करते थे. So by default, certain vegetables were traditionally cooked in certain oils, and they had that variety.
That's very true. I think we should be going back to our roots. That is most important.
And as doctor is concerned about his patients, so I want to ask him, it is often seen that when diabetic patient or any kind of patient take medicines, they do not follow restrictions of diet, or you can say they do not take any care of diet, so or any activity. So how can it harm them?
You see, it is obvious if the diet, because the disease has been caused to a certain extent by diet. As you started very rightly in the beginning of the program, there are many epigenetic factors. It is how the child grew up in the womb of the mom, of the mother. Basically, diabetes and these diseases have started right from there. So diet plays a very important role throughout the life of the human being. And now, you see, the disease of diabetes and atherosclerotic disease, it does not start when it is evident, when it becomes evident. The atherosclerotic plaque starts developing at the age of 12, 13 years. The vascular age of individuals who are not taking proper food is much higher. Vascular age means the structure of the blood vessel of a person who's taking very high, very fat-rich food, fried food, would be 20 or 30 years more than their natural age. So this is where diet plays a very important role. A lot of harm has already been done to individuals by the time they turn up to a doctor, especially diabetics. When they're diabetic, already the disease has set in. Some complications of diabetes, like diabetic neuropathy, usually are present even at the time of presentation of the patient to a doctor. So the harm has already been done. What we try to do is we try to arrest the progression of these diseases like diabetes, heart diseases, especially the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. We try to stop their progression, and a lot can be done through the judicious use of nutritious foods, as has been mentioned by the panelists till yet, to prevent the progression of the disease, and sometimes to regress the disease also. It may be possible with help of some fruits, with proper nutrition and with proper diet. So here I would like to mention a simple message which I tell to all my patients, that be careful about the whites. The whites are actually not very good for your health. The whites, I mean sugar, salt, and maida. These are whites, and in excess quantity, they are very harmful for you. Neither excess sugar nor excess salt. The majority of hypertension in our country is because of excess salt. We are eating more salt than many other countries of the world. The average salt intake in Delhi is around 12 grams per day. So salt is very important. And as has been mentioned earlier by other panelists also, the refined wheat flour, maida. Maida perhaps would give similar rise in glucose as to sugar. So, and other starchy foods also, which again are white, most of them. So avoid these whites. It is very simple to understand. And it is not that if you don't have them, then you won't get them from other places. Like I try to explain to people that even when you eat when you eat namkeen, then your sugar goes up. So it is not that only with a sweet taste, something which is sweet is going to give rise to your sugar. So this is the importance of white. Salt, as I've told you, even if you don't have salt, don't put salt in your food. The sodium is already there in majority in almost everything that you're eating. The pulses, the vegetables, sodium is already present there. It is just not giving the sensation, the taste. And the other white, obviously maida, is very harmful. We all know that. Now what happens is when a patient is diabetic, let's say around 45, 50 years of age, then the person is already well formed, and it is very difficult for anyone to change. If a lady comes to me who's elder to me and she has lived all her life quite well, has well settled children, and I suddenly tell her, no, you must change. You don't eat this, you don't eat that, whatever you've been doing till yet is wrong. So obviously she is not going to take it that easily. So you need to have approach to all your patients, and you need to bring about the changes in their lifestyle, in the eating habits, gradually. First of all, the most important thing, I think I'm very thankful to ASSOCHAM for doing this, is creating awareness. When people hear about these practices on these platforms, like the platform that we are sitting on right now, they get more aware, they get more information, they get authentic information, because a lot of harm is being done because of the WhatsApp university, when people are forwarding endless messages which are actually deleterious to the health and detrimental. So creating awareness is very important, which is being already done through this platform. Once people get aware, then it is important to give them actionable steps. Tell them, you do this, you do this, you do this. Slowly make changes in their habits. And my personal experience is that most of the patients, when they understand the requirement of the change, they definitely bring it about in their life, and they do make changes in their lifestyle, and major changes as well, as they see that they are benefiting from them. So I think that this idea has to be introduced, then once again mentioned, and then it has to be reinforced by the benefits which the patient sees himself, herself, and then it becomes the new lifestyle.
Okay. As we can say, according to you, that dietary restrictions and healthy lifestyle is also important as medicines.
It is very important. It is very important, and in fact, it forms the background of treatment of all these diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart diseases. So it is not that uh, we start initially treatment and then we give them some advice about the lifestyle and diet. What happens is that the lifestyle modification, the diet, and the exercise, that forms the background, the platform on which the medications are prescribed or work.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Well said. As you said, some WhatsApp messages and fancy words. I just want to ask Sheila ma'am that as आपने जरूर सुना होगा keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, etc. Some kind of fancy words related with diets. So, what's your thoughts on about?
I think Ishi already made a reference to the keto diet in the beginning. I personally do not promote these kind of diets because I believe that these diets provide short-term benefits. In fact, there are even reviews and studies to show that they provide only short-term benefits, but in the long run, such diets can increase the chances of disease and even increase the chances of mortality. And they cannot be sustained for a long period of time, right? They could also cause nutritional deficiencies. So in order to overcome those nutritional deficiencies, we have to go and prescribe something else that the person needs. The lipid levels could go up. They could be organ damage. There are so many negative effects. Yes, there are short-term benefits, as in, because everybody, I think, looks at weight loss. Everyone wants to jump on a diet only to lose weight. Body weight is the main concern without giving, without thinking of overall health, or without giving the entire package of body, mind, everything. It's due. I think one needs to concentrate on overall health and keep the entire lifestyle and the entire variety of foods in mind, rather than focusing just on A food group or B food groups, or maybe just 2 or 3 food groups. And we know we have, again, India is, I think, blessed that way because we have a huge variety of whole grains, we have a huge variety of fruits, we have a huge variety of vegetables, spices, nuts, seeds, everything is available in abundance. And we also have seasonal foods which go very well and suit the digestive system and suit the body very well. So I think it's so important to include all the varieties of foods and food groups and not concentrate just on 1 or 2 types of food groups. And that's not going to benefit in any way, because it's only going to harm. Yes, when we talk about a body weight alone, when we concentrate only on body weight, yes, there can be some benefit, because when you change the kind of foods that you're eating and when you go on a sudden change in the diet pattern, there's bound to be some amount of weight loss. But is that sustainable? And why should we think only about our weight? What about the rest of the rest of the organs and rest of the tissues and cells and everything, the systems, the way they function, everything has to be kept in mind. So let's not, think only of body weight. And that's how these diets have become popular, because they all promise weight loss, and that's why they are popular. And sometimes the diets also become popular because they're endorsed by celebrities. It happens everywhere, not just here in India, but globally, they're endorsed by celebrities, and that's why the diets become popular. So I think we need to dig a little deeper and see whether there is really any good science behind this. And if there is, then how it would help a person. And I think we need to tell the people to go to, professionals that are qualified dietitians, and in plenty in India. I think they need to go to a qualified dietitian and consult the dietitian to find out what suits them and what doesn't, and if these diets are really beneficial for them or not, and what is the kind of diet that would suit that particular individual, right? So I don't think fancy diets like keto or paleo or any of those would really help. And surprisingly, fat diets are not new. They have been in existence for centuries. I think we've heard of so many things like ACV, apple cider vinegar diet. We've heard of cabbage soup diet. We've heard of banana diet. We've heard of a whole lot of other diets. All of them have come and gone. Nothing has lasted long. So even the current ones are not going to last long because it's just a fad or a fancy taken up by some people and promoted it for whatever reasons, right? So I think we need to stick to sensible eating patterns using healthy options which are available to us. And if there is a doubt, there's always a qualified dietitian to go to and get some help.
I think that was a very wonderful ending line, that we need to have a sensible and a healthy eating pattern. And I really like that the diet that we have should be wholesome. We have to be worried about all the organs of the body, not just the weight, because this is one problem that we face with our patients, because most of the diabetics are obese, they are losing weight and they are following different diets. But the thing is, what we try to explain is that just by decreasing your calories and losing weight in a month or two, it won't be sustainable, and you might be doing some harm to other organs of the body, as some studies have already shown about the keto diet. So I think we had a wonderful interaction. And if I'm allowed, I would request our Honorable Chairperson, Shri Anil Rajputji, to give a vote of thanks and conclude, sir.
Thank you very much, Sri Rishi Khoslaji and Sheilaji, for coming and sharing your very valuable thoughts with all the participants. And I'm sure there are many takeaways that all of you have given to all the participants. And they would have taken note that at the end of the day, it is a balanced and healthy life that can keep you in good stead. You need to have a active lifestyle. You need to stay away from sugar, salt, maida that Dr. Yesri mentioned, the whites. Stay away from the whites. It can help immensely. And if you have good physical activities, it can keep the disease away from you. And Dr. Khosla gave many lessons to all the participants about how they need to have healthy eating pattern. Food has become entertainment. It was a very interesting comment that you made. Environment has made many changes. We have to be cognizant of all these things. Something very serious comment was made by Dr. Khosla that children will have shorter lifespan. I think we all need to ponder, we need to think about it, and bring in changes in our lives. That this kind of thing should not happen. With every passing time, increased research and development and science, that should be the last thing that should be happening. And I'm sure listeners and the other people who are connected with this would kind of propagate this, that it is very critical that we keep our balanced diet as a focus for our good and healthy life, not only for ourselves, even for our children. She also mentioned that we should focus on real food. Look at cereal, fruits, nuts, grains, and not just be carried away with something which is not going to be overall good for you. Listen to your body, and you should have use of medicine very, very judicious, because those use of medicine can also go to a huge harm to yourself. And the ultimate mantra she gave was a gut, girth, grain, and sugar. You can focus on these things, they can really be useful. And Dr. Sheila also made very pertinent points about parental concern and not using food as a bribe, because that is the last thing that as parents we should be doing. We need to educate children about the good food, and say no to second helping. Second helping is another thing that causes a lot of problems, because it is not your need, it is your greed that causes these problems to you. So parents need to be role models, she said, and I'm sure all those people who have joined would take a lesson from this, that they have to show it to the children that what is healthy. Sometimes what is tasty may not be healthy, and Dr. Khosla also mentioned that fried food you should try and stay away. It doesn't really help you. And all these diets that come and go, you should be staying away from them. Being focused on a holistic approach to your lifestyle. You need to dig deeper, check out what is science-based rather than what is being endorsed by some celebrities. So with these words, I'd like to thank you once again, and I'm sure everybody would benefit immensely with your knowledge. Wish you all the very best, and take good care during this pandemic time. Stay healthy and safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sir.